Thanks for tuning into Hardstone Media, where we use our superpower of hindsight to look back at movies and TV series and see how they could have been improved. Today we're continuing our Star Wars Rewritten series. Now we're looking at the sequel trilogy. As before, we're not here to critique the existing trilogy, but to offer a structure and ideas that we believe should be included in any sequel rewrite. This will be a much shorter video than the prequels, as we have more or less a blank slate to work with, and the points are relatively straightforward, well at least we think. That said, we do need to make sure this trilogy is meaningful, connected, and a continuation of the previous movies, especially as they are literally all episodes within one long saga. Now, creating a Star Wars movie is hard. It's hard because each movie needs to be different things to different people, more so than almost any other movie series around. These differences are that the general public and movie critics watch a Star Wars movie for entertainment and generally as a standalone picture. Casual Star Wars fans want to see the familiar tropes and characters but aren't as concerned with the background and the lore. Then finally, the deeply invested Star Wars fans expect each movie to be all those things, but also to make sense within the trilogy and make sense within the entire saga. Because of this, we need to consider a lot more when writing this sequel trilogy. To get started, we need to look at the main story and themes that exist within Star Wars, and continue them through our sequel trilogy. The three main story threads, as we see it, are the Republic, its fall to the Empire, then return through the Rebellion. The Jedi and the Sith, as seen with the prophecy of the Chosen One, and the battle between the light and the dark. And the Skywalker family, as followed through Anakin's downfall, then seen through his children, and finally Anakin's redemption. As we look close at the storylines from George Lucas's prequels, we see that the Empire is solely created by Palpatine, and he is the source of the galaxy's problems. But this is resolved with Vader destroying the Emperor. We also see that Luke revives the Jedi Order, and along with Anakin destroys the Sith, resolving that story. And finally, Luke redeems his father, bringing to an end Anakin's story of redemption and the Skywalker family. Well, that kind of means the Star Wars saga is over. Okay, thanks for watching. Roll credits. Only kidding. Though that may be true, we still want to be able to see more Star Wars movies, and Disney want to make more money, so let's just run with it. As per our prequel videos, we'll focus on three elements that need to be considered to build this trilogy. The stage in which the story of these movies are set, the story that propels our characters forward, and finally the characters that will lead this story. Firstly, the most important decision to make is when in the timeline of Star Wars will the sequel trilogy be based. Will the story be 2 or 5 years after the original trilogy, or will it be set 20 to 30 years after the Death Star's destruction? This decision will influence all the different aspects of the story and characters, including whether we continue the story of our original trilogy heroes or look at a new generation. It will also be important as we want to see what the galaxy looks like after the destruction of the Death Star. Once we know when the trilogy is set, we can now look at where it will be based. Unlike the prequels, there are no predetermined locations that need to be visited. But like any good sequel, we want to see something that's familiar, as well as something new. In this case, Tatooine is likely to be one of the places we visit, as it has been an important place in the prequels as well as in the originals. Another place that would be important to visit is Coruscant, as we want to see the differences from now compared to what we saw in the prequels. Outside those two planets, anywhere that helps move the story and the characters forward is good. There could be a visit to Naboo for old time's sake, Chewbacca's home planet, Corellia, and of course, some new places we've never heard about. Next, we need to look at the story, or more to the point, how we continue those three main story threads from the original trilogy and the prequels, and how we tie them up, more so than Return of the Jedi did, if that's even possible. Looking at the prequels, we follow the story where the galaxy starts off in a good place, then we have the Clone Wars, the Republic eventually falls to the control of the Empire. Then we follow the original trilogy, whereby we start off in a low point, where the Empire controls the galaxy, and follow the rebels as they get their initial victory, Then the Empire strikes back, and our heroes and the rebellion seem to have nothing left. But finally, our heroes defeat the Empire, destroy the Death Star, and bring freedom back to the galaxy. For our sequel story to work over 3 movies, we'll need a new threat. If we're setting the trilogy closely after Return of the Jedi, then it's likely a battle with the remnants of the Empire. If we set our story 30 years after, with the next generation of Skywalkers, then we would expect that the major conflict with the Empire's remaining forces should be over. That means that the threat posed by this new force is likely to be a unique resurgence of the Empire, or something we haven't seen before. A totally new type of enemy, like the Yuuzhan Vong. Whatever this new threat is, it needs to move the story and the galaxy forward with it, and of course, our characters. The next story thread will be how has the Jedi Order changed and grown over the years? What challenges do they face, and how is the dark side influencing this? The last part is the story of the Skywalkers. What is next in store for them, either Luke and Leia, or their children? So lastly, now we have to look at who our main characters will be, and again, this will depend on when we set the sequel trilogy. Star Wars has always focused on the Skywalkers, from Anakin to his children. They've always been central to Star Wars, and the next trilogy within the saga needs to again focus on the Skywalkers. Either Luke and Leia if we focus on the aftermath of the Death Star's destruction, or the next generation if we set the trilogy 20 to 30 years after. If we set our story soon after the Death Star's destruction, we'll be using the same characters we know and love, just giving them some new challenges to overcome. We'll need to look more deeply into the characters and their backgrounds to make sure that we have a character arc that continues from the original trilogy, moving them forward and upward without ruining the character development and arcs they had during the original trilogy. This might be difficult as most of our main characters have neatly completed their character arc. The better way to handle this would be to focus on the next generation and have the original characters pass the mantle on, much like Obi-Wan Kenobi did for the original trilogy. When looking at the next generation of Skywalkers, we can create any character we want, but the protagonist should be a Skywalker for this trilogy to fit within the themes and overall concept of the Star Wars saga. This protagonist could be a Ben Solo, though why they'd name their child after someone Ham knew for a couple days whilst giving him a lift to the remnants of his future partner's planet? Well, I'm not sure about that. But the best source of inspiration for our main characters should be taken from the Star Wars Legends books. Here, we see a new generation of twins with Jaina and Jacen Solo. We could also introduce Mara and the son that she had with Luke, Ben Skywalker, because Luke actually knew Ben and it would make more sense for him to call his son after someone he actually knew. Well, kind of. This focus on the next generation provides the opportunity to introduce brand new characters with brand new character arcs, which can all be fulfilled within our trilogy. We still want to see our favourites from the original trilogy, see how they've changed and where they're at these days, but rather than focusing on them and taking time away from our new characters, we need to give the time and space to this next generation to make them our new favourites. If we decide that we are using the Skywalker grandchildren, we also need to make sure we include some non-Jedi characters, someone who can make it feel a little more grounded and bring the perspective of the normal person living in this galaxy far away, which was achieved with Han Solo in the original trilogy. Something we might like to see in this new trilogy is that the new generation of characters grow beyond their parents and fix the errors that their previous generation had created. This could be to do with the Force or how the Force is perceived. This could be the politics and the Republic and how it's run, or something more personal like family issues and helping their parents understand their mistakes or something like that. So that's what we believe are the key aspects that need to be considered when rewriting the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Now we'll present a sneak peek of our sequel trilogy with the opening crawl for Episode 7, Remnant of the Empire. But before we do, a small note that our sequel rewrite is based on some of the core elements from our previous prequel rewrite and slightly different to George Lucas's prequels. These elements are: the Empire is a human-centric organization. They were led by Palpatine and Tarkin, but the force behind it is much bigger, and the conflict between humans and aliens has occurred for hundreds of years. The fall of Anakin is based on the failings of the Jedi teachings. that there is a fundamental flaw in the Jedi religion that needs to be fixed. And the Senate was mostly made up of human royalty. These senators were part of the human expansion in the galaxy, and though it is a democracy, it's a democracy where mostly human royalty represent each system. And without further ado, here's our opening crawl. It's a time of peace. The New Republic has gained control over the galaxy, but an enemy rises from the Outer Rim. A resurgence of the Empire seek the hidden location of Emperor Palpatine's storehouse, a location thought to contain weapons that could plunge the galaxy into a new civil war. Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order have set out on their first mission to discover its location before the Empire does. Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and if you'd like to see episode 7.